Welcome to today's explainer. We are jumping right into the absolute roller coaster of a 400-year journey of a language known as Dhakaiya Urdu. You know, when we talk about languages, it's so easy to just picture static words in dusty textbooks. But today, we're tracing a living, breathing language from its organic birth on the bustling streets of Old Dhaka all the way to a completely wild modern digital revival. Here's exactly how we're going to break this story down. First, the birth of a language. Second, the Golden Age. Third, partition and coexistence. Fourth, the struggle for survival. And finally, the digital revival. Let's dive in.
All right, part 1, the birth of a language.
So, picture this. It's the early 1600s. The expansion of Mughal rule means you've got Hindustani and Urdu-speaking soldiers and administrators rolling into Bengal. But the real spark? That hit in 1610, when Islam Khan Chishti officially shifted the capital of Suba Bengal to Dhaka, actually renaming it Jahangirnagar at the time. With this massive move, an influx of North Indian soldiers, scholars, artisans, and merchants just poured into the city. Suddenly, you have all these entirely different linguistic worlds colliding right into one concentrated space. Now, what happened between 1610 and 1700 wasn't just one powerful group imposing their language on everyone else. No, it was this incredible fusion. Think of it like a giant linguistic recipe. You've got local Bengali acting as the absolute foundation, blending with the core structure of Hindustani. Then you layer in Persian from the administrative elite, Arabic from the religious scholars, and even Turkish from the military and trade sectors. Through literal decades of daily face-to-face contact in the Muslim society of Old Dhaka, these 5 totally distinct roots organically blended into a brand new, distinct spoken form. Moving into the 1700s, the Nawabi era and later British rule, this homegrown language really had to adapt to survive. While Persian remained the dominant formal language of high administration and the courts, Dhakaiya Urdu flourished where it actually mattered the most, inside the home. It became the ultimate language of the family and the neighborhood, basically safely insulated from all those messy political shifts happening in the palaces.
Which brings us nicely to section 2, the Golden Age.
By the time we hit 1880, something amazing happens. The publication of the drama Bimar-e-Bulbul by Ahmad Hussein Wafir marks a huge milestone for us. It really symbolizes the exact moment when modern Urdu literary practices firmly anchored themselves in the cultural soil of Dhaka. The language had officially leveled up from, just daily dinner table chat into a fully fledged vehicle for sophisticated storytelling and public entertainment. And from 1850 all the way to 1947, it's just a cultural explosion. We are talking about vibrant theater troupes performing in the streets, a massive surge in local journalism, and a really rich culture of poetry. Key literary heavyweights like Mirza Jan Tapish and Sayyid Muhammad Azad totally elevated the language. They effectively made Dhakaiya Urdu the beating heart of Old Dhaka's urban culture for almost a century. Okay, moving to section 3. Partition and coexistence. Then, 1947 hits. With the partition and the establishment of Pakistan, a massive demographic shift occurs practically overnight. A huge influx of new Urdu-speaking populations migrated to Dhaka from West Bengal, Bihar, and North India. So this original, organic Dhakaiya Urdu, which had been developing in its own little bubble for centuries, suddenly had to share the stage with all these new dialects brought in by the migrants. The city's linguistic ecosystem just got incredibly complex. Now, historically speaking, it is absolutely crucial that we untangle 2 very different threads here. On one hand, you have the state language policy of 1948 to 1952. That was a top-down political mandate attempting to make Urdu the sole state language, which, as we know, sparked the historic Bengali language movement. But on the totally opposite side, you have the organic, spoken Dhakaiya Urdu. The intense political debate regarding state policy was entirely separate from this bottom-up, centuries-old mother tongue that residents were simply speaking in their homes. Even with all that heavy political tension going on in the background, the 1950s and 60s were actually kind of huge for the language. It completely cemented its place in urban pop culture. The residents of Old Dhaka used it to cultivate this highly unique, very sharp sense of local humor. Street dramas flourished, and a hyper-local folk culture really thrived. The language basically became synonymous with the wit and the very specific lifestyle of the Old Dhaka community. Which brings us to a much tougher era. Section 4. The Struggle for Survival.
Everything shifts again in 1971 with the hard-fought independence of Bangladesh. The socio-political reality for Urdu-speaking populations fundamentally changed, and public usage of the language absolutely plummeted. But the source material notes something really incredible here. Many traditional old Dhaka families steadfastly refused to let it go. They kept their native language alive behind closed doors, quietly protecting their heritage around the family dinner table.
But the outside world doesn't stop. Despite preserving it at home, the organic usage of Dhakaiya Urdu faced this severe and pretty unavoidable decline between 1971 and 2000. Why? Well, purely sociological forces. First off, increased intermarriage across different communities naturally diluted the language. Second, a universal shift to Bengali medium education meant the younger generations just weren't learning it formally anymore. And third, rapid urbanization forced the language to the fringes. For decades, it genuinely looked like Dhakaiya Urdu was quietly slipping into the history books.
And that leads us to our final act, Section 5, the digital revival. Just when you think the story is over, the internet enters the chat. Around 2000, you had these isolated, tiny internet discussions. But in 2021, boom! A major milestone, the publication of the first ever two-way Dhakaiya Urdu Bengali dictionaries. Between 2022 and 2024, that momentum snowballed into a global web and social media presence. And looking ahead to 2025 and 2026, the movement is actively targeting formal grammar initiatives and setting up comprehensive digital archives. It's a full-on rescue mission. So who's actually pulling this off? It's grassroots heroes. This modern renaissance is largely driven by incredibly passionate individuals from the diaspora. Organizers like Mizir Udin Dhakaiya, who's operating all the way from Canada alongside a network of global associates, are literally utilizing digital tools to build websites, record oral history interviews, and meticulously document the vocabulary of their ancestors. It really goes to show that sometimes you actually have to leave home to fully realize just how precious your native tongue really is.
So, as we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with a thought. Can the passion of a modern, incredibly driven digital community permanently save a 400-year-old language from the brink of extinction? I mean, from a Mughal military camp in 1610 to street theater in 1880 to a global digital archive in 2026, Dhakaiya Urdu has proven itself to be the ultimate survivor. This whole effort reminds us that when a language dies, an entire world of history dies with it. But perhaps, through technology and just sheer willpower, this is one world that's going to stick around for generations to come. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey today.
Thank you.